Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of New York Sports Rehab. And this is going to be New York Sports Rehab Quick Take. And we're going to quickly talk about Noah Syndergaard not accepting the Mets qualifying offer, instead signing a contract with the Angels today. I know a lot of fans on social media are upset with Syndergaard. They're upset with the Met organization. And I am here to tell you that in this particular case, Met fans, let's relax. No reason to jump off the roof. The season is not lost because Syndergaard decided to sign with the Angels. There's plenty of reason at times to get down on the Mets and the Mets hierarchy or their executive staff in particular. I don't believe that this is one of those cases, though. So for one time, I'm actually going to defend the Mets organization. When the season ended, the Mets offered Syndergaard the qualifying offer of $18.4 million. He gave every indication based on the statements that he made before the end of the season that he wanted to come back to the Mets. He loved New York. He loved the organization. He loved the fans. And I thought we all felt pretty good about the chances of Syndergaard coming back. The Mets offered him that qualifying offer. And I think as the days went on and he had not accepted it, I think that was a sign that there was something going on and maybe there was another team. And it turned out there was at least one team and maybe more. Now, do I want the Mets to get into a bidding war with the Angels over this one-year deal and maybe offer 22 or 23 million to bring Syndergaard back? Absolutely not. In fact, I might be in the minority here, but I would have been okay if the Mets didn't offer Syndergaard the qualifying offer at all. In particular, he's coming off, he has not pitched in 2 seasons. He pitched 2 innings the end of last year and was limited on what he could throw, basically just fastballs. He had at least 2 or 3 setbacks during his rehab last season as well. That's not to say he's not going to pitch well next year or not be fully recovered, but up to this point right now, there was still a lot of question marks going forward on what he could do and where he would be as far as the 22 season goes. So offering him a 1-year, $18.4 million deal, the qualifying offer, I thought was more than reasonable and more than generous in this particular case. And I do understand why the Mets did it. And to some degree, I think it was the best move on, covering all fronts there. He's 29 years old. He still has a ton of potential. He's still young as far as major league pitchers go. He has shown dominance at times. So maybe it's worth taking that risk, shelling out the money for 1 year, see what he's got, and then we'll worry about next season as far as locking him up long term. Had the Wilpons still been our owners, I don't think that this would have ever even been an issue. I don't think the qualifying offer would have ever even been on the table. But with Steve Cohen as our owner, and now we have more money as far as an organization to invest in the team, that became a possibility. And overall, like I said, I think it was a decent move, but I wouldn't have been upset if they didn't offer him the qualifying offer as well. So that being said, I think the Mets did, all they could do in this particular case. If you were depending on Syndergaard to anchor the rotation in 2022, then you're in a lot of trouble. Because I looked at Syndergaard going into 22 almost like I looked at him going into 21. Anything that you got out of him more or less was going to be gravy. Maybe not quite as much going into 22 now. But let's again remember, he hasn't pitched in 2 years. He was not really effective in his last season prior to him having to have Tommy John surgery. So it would have been unrealistic to think that he was going to pitch 150, 200 innings next year, be dominant, be a number 2 or a number 1 on the rotation. If it happened, great, but it was unrealistic. So him signing with the Angels, I don't think is the end of the world. It would have given us one more piece to work with. So many question marks in the rotation going forward with injuries to Peterson and to DeGrom, and you're not sure what you're going to get with Walker next year. So having Syndergaard would have been a little bit more of a safety net, but it's not the end of the world that he signed with the Angels, Met fans. Going forward, I'm not going to bash him for taking the extra money. 2.6 million is 2.6 million. I know baseball's a business. I know if the Mets needed to release him or send him down or cut him, whatever you want to look at it, they would do so if it was in the best interest of the team. So he took what the best interests were to him, even though it was kind of disappointing to some extent because he made it sound so sincere in that he was coming back because of his love for New York. But that's the way it is. Summing things up, though, where the Mets go from here, that's the important thing. Okay, you now have $18.4 million more than you thought you were going to have. And to some degree, you actually have $36.8 million because Conforto rejected the qualifying offer as well, except in his case, there was no surprise there. Had he accepted it, that would have been the surprise. So where do the Mets go? Do they reinvest this money wisely? If this was the Wilpon regime, they probably take it, put it in their pocket, and sign a back end of the rotation has-been for $2 or $3 million for the season. I don't believe that's the case here. I think the Mets will do everything they can to reinvest that money. And if now the Mets can really make a solid offer to Marcus Stroman, and maybe if it means an extra $5 or $10 million, putting us over the top to bring him back on a 5-year deal, then Syndergaard leaving for the Angels will actually turn out to be a blessing in disguise. Because right now, if you've given me a choice between Stroman and Syndergaard, I've definitely got to go with Stroman. I know a lot of people at times get a little bit turned off by Stroman in different ways, but the bottom line is he's still a good, reliable pitcher. He's going to give you 5 to 6 innings. He's going to give you 32 starts. He's a good athlete. He's definitely, if DeGrom is healthy, he is a perfect number 2 or number 3 pitcher behind him. So if Syndergaard leaving and allowing us to reinvest at $18.4 million allows us to sign Stroman or another pitcher or another player who we would not have been able to bring in otherwise, then again, like I said, this could be a blessing in disguise. So let's see what happens going forward now as the Mets start addressing roster needs and the free agency period as we go forward. So that's basically it, Met fans. My message to you is don't jump off the rooftop because Syndergaard left and went to the Angels. It's not the end of the world. I don't think it's going to impact our season that much as long as the Mets address the issues at hand going forward with that extra money and the players that are out there. So this isn't the end of the world. I know as Met fans and as Jet fans, we sometimes we tend to overreact or we tend to get into that doom or gloom mode. But I really don't think in this particular case, this is reason to do so. Believe me, we'll have plenty of opportunity, I think, to probably bash the Mets going forward and the organization in general, but not today. The Mets made him an offer. It was $18.4 million for a pitcher who hadn't pitched in 2 years. I don't have a problem at all with them not getting into a bidding war with the Angels or another team to bring back a pitcher who we really don't know what we would have gotten this year. Even Zach Wheeler, as good a pitcher as he's become, when he first came back after being gone for 2 years, it took him a full season to really get into form. And it probably would have been the same thing with Syndergaard. And by the time he fully got into form, the season would have been over and he's a free agent anyways. So if he came back, that would have been great. That's one more pitcher for us to work with. But him being gone, Met fans, is not the end of the world. Okay, so I'm Mike. That's a New York Sports Rehab. Let's see where the Mets go forward from here. Let's see if they bring back Stroman or other high-quality, high-priced free agents as the winter goes along. Let's go Mets, and let's hope for a better 2022 baseball season than 2021 was. I'm out.